Before, call the meeting to order. Do I have to have a second on that?
Nope.
Second.
It's
There you
not a
go.
meeting, you
It's
still
my
have to
meeting,
call it.
whatever I want. All right. Okay, we're going to go in order. The advisory board, what we're going to do is, because Brian's not here, Dan's not here, so we'll look at his, we'll come back after the annual, and if Brian's still not here, then we'll tackle those, all right?
Yeah.
Article 1, I move as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
This is in the special, correct?
This is, we're talking about the special, starting with the special number 1.
Yep.
All right, hold on a second. I think someone's got to do this, but let me just do that.
Do you want me to do it?
Do that's,
Just do the seconds and then keep the votes?
yeah, that'd be great, yeah, because I actually have it down here. As a matter of fact, with this, you can write on that.
Okay.
Put the wrong piece of paper in my printer. Okay, just say an annual article for the budget.
Yeah. We can
Unpaid bills.
Unpaid bills.
Unpaid bills.
be here to look at it.
I have that piece of paper now. Thanks, appreciate
Just
that.
trying to be helpful.
I know, and that's on me. That is totally on me. All right, any discussion on Article 1? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Okay, Article 2, this is just the, doing the part-time and seasonal positions, just 2, and changing the wage adjustment. Any discussion on Article 2?
Did you move it?
A second?
I move, yes, I did, I think I moved Article 2 as written.
I'll second.
Mark will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, Article 3, now I don't.
I'll move it.
A second. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's just changing a funding source.
Okay, and now, because I don't have that,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
I'm ruining
need
it.
that.
Just,
Yeah. It's-
you do it.
I'm gonna do it, yeah,
It was
yeah.
my mistake for
Yeah,
even
no, it's all,
suggesting
Let's
But
go.
try to keep it that neat going forward.
All right, well, okay, I mean, you've already got the numbers down, because it's 6-0 now.
Oh, my bad. See?
Mother God. Thank God this is a volunteer position.
Well, I mean, I didn't hear Rick on that last vote, so I had to find
Okay, did we have a vote on that?
No, you didn't vote it.
Okay, any further discussion on Article 3? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay, now Article 4 is Keith.
I'll move it as written.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
It's just changing the free cash.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. All right, we're going to go down to number 7, which is Keith.
I'll move it as written. It's for the school roofs.
Have a second?
Second.
I think I have to recuse, is school, is this on?
No, no, you only have to recluse yourself from salaries.
Okay.
And you technically, does he live with you?
Pardon me?
Does your son live with you?
He does not.
You don't have to recluse yourself.
Is that right? Okay, good.
But if you'd like to.
Yeah. But this is just for the roofs.
As long as it's okay, then I'm good with
Okay.
voting.
Okay, any further discussion on the roofs? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. I got this 6-0 in the wrong spot. There you go. Okay, Article 8 is Rick.
I'm fine with it as written. This is just to add a couple of alternate members to the Council on Aging Board.
Do I have a second? All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Okay, Dan's not here. Okay, I'm going to move to Article 9 as written,
Second.
adding 2 additional members to the Conservation Commission. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Article 10, I move Article 10 as written. I have a
Second.
second. Keith. It's just the ratify the collective bargaining agreements with these 3 unions. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Everyone good?
Yes.
Okay. Abstain? No abstain? Okay, great. Article 11, we're going to skip. Okay, Article 12. This is where
Here you go.
DPW.
Buckle
crew.
up.
Let's go.
Okay, that's, we haven't met yet with Kevin, but I think I would, I've talked with him.
Okay,
Move it as written.
okay.
Second.
Did you second, Mark?
I did.
Thank you. All right.
Tommy, we have talked with him. but,
Yep, that's fine.
Just haven't met with them yet.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff over there. It's historic, it's DPW. I think it just came out of, I think I just gave it to you guys for that
It's
reason.
become like an annual.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Okay, 13,
All right, I'll take that one. You could-
okay?
Yep,
I move the article as written, and
Do I have
we
a
had a
second?
meeting with DPW.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, there we go.
And
Thank you.
one of the things that, people are generating more waste these days, especially with so many people working from home. This kind of supplements what was in there, so.
Yep. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 14.
I move the article as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Basically, this is just the continuation of the town's improvement project for the Plymouth Ave sewer main. Okay, so and the funding comes out of their retained earnings.
That thing's just been going on forever, huh?
Well, we, at our meeting today, where they're located, the salt water is continually attacking the infrastructure below the road. And
Yeah.
they should be complimented for their due diligence in keeping up with it. And
All right,
that's one of the causes of it.
all right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 15.
Do you want me to take that, John?
I move the article as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second it. I second it.
Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. Okay,
And they're just setting their money aside to defray any potential overspending in the FY '24 budget. It's an annual.
gotcha. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. 16.
Okay, I move the article as written.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
And basically, this is going to be throughout, throughout the town. The DPW is just being proactive in protecting the town's water supply. Okay.
All right. Sounds like a good idea. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 17.
I move the article as written,
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
and this article is, again, they explain, is due to the unexpected rise in the process of residual disposal.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 18, Mark.
I move the article as written.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
So this relates to the state law that was passed a few years ago that requires Marshfield and other communities adjacent to the MBTA to zone multi-family units as of right. There are specific prescriptions about the size of the zoning area and how many units need to be afforded. It's a requirement. So the planning board voted yesterday 5-0 to approve this recommendation. I think there is obviously a lot of frustration and opposition to the state policy and the imposition. I haven't heard, at least at our meeting certainly, and in the planning board meetings, any particular opposition to the implementation, meaning any people objecting to what the planning department proposed in terms of how to implement. Because I looked at it and I talked with Greg today. I think it's the best location for the town, given what we have to provide. So it's 85 acres. It's the lots on the north side of Plain Street and 139 between School Street and the high school complex. It will be zoned for multi-use and multifamily, meaning like on the first level you can have retail or other types of establishments. Second, third, and fourth level, you can go up to 4 levels. You can have residential, up to 16 units per acre. One of the good things about this area is there's already a lot of this area is already developed in multi-use. Like there's already 800 units there, right? So it doesn't dramatically change that. There are a number of big parcels that maybe are unlikely to sell, like Quirk and Cask and Flagon. But there is a risk that there is a possibility developers will come in and redevelop some of these with multifamily units. We've done it, the zoning bylaw does it in a way that keeps the existing setbacks and requires site plan review by the planning board. So there are some controls in terms of how the units are developed. I think the one thing that is important, in addition to the statute which says that if you fail to implement the required zoning by the deadline, which for us is December 31 of this year, you become ineligible for certain discretionary funds. But in addition to that, the Attorney General's taken the position that it's mandatory. And in the case of Milton, when Milton didn't meet their deadline, they had an earlier deadline because they're on the MBTA route, the state has actually sued to enforce and enjoin and demand specific performance and require the town. So they're embroiled with litigation before the SJC right now. It's pretty costly.
But didn't they reject it also?
They reject,
Yeah.
So did Milton reject this or the step that comes after this?
so what happened,
okay.
what happened was the town presented it at town meeting. The planning board voted no in Milton. Town meeting voted it down. And in the complaint, the AG office took issue with the fact that a town board voted not to recommend it as almost an intentional non-compliance with the state, so we should keep that in mind. But so the town meeting, I think they approved it, actually, I think they approved it at town meeting, but then the voters put something on a
Yeah,
ballot.
Right.
And through the ballot measure, repealed it. So they became out of compliance. I talked to Bob Galvin, because Milton right now, it's worth, just to be complete, Milton is pushing back and saying that some of the regulations are an overreach based on the statute, that the AG doesn't have the power to demand specific enforcement, that all they can do is just withhold these funds. But I talked to Bob Galvin and I'm a lawyer, but I'm not the town's lawyer, and his sort of advice is let's not go down that path because particularly with the SJC, that's a tough sell. So happy to answer any other questions, but I do think, and I actually talked with Greg, and I'm like, all right, so what are the other places in this town that you consider, right? Because this is sort of the entryway of our community. And he said, look, we looked at all these other places. There are a lot of restrictions in terms of excluded land based on the state laws. So you can't do it in Brant Rock because there's just, within the floodplain, and you can't do it there. There's areas where, there are the apartments down west of the center of town on Ocean Street. The infrastructure, the street isn't wide enough to do it, and there are other restrictions. There are people who wanted it closer to where the train station is, like on the Situate line, but you can't just plop this into a residential neighborhood. This area is not only like consistent with the state requirements in that it's within walking distance of the of restaurants and retail and supermarkets. It's on the bus route, and it's almost entirely B2 now, right?
It's what?
It's almost entirely a business
Oh, it's
district now.
B2.
There are a couple lots that actually spread across into the residential district north of it, but that's only because you can't split up a lot for purposes of this. But it's entirely business now, right? So it's not as dramatic a change as if you did this in a residential zoned area.
Are there fiscal impacts expected from this that would not be covered in future budgets? So, for example, if it's being zoned for all of this, mixed-use space, including a lot of residential, right? So, a whole bunch of families move in, kids move in. Town of Marshfield spends on average $15,000, $16,000 per pupil a week. Is there going to be enough tax revenue that's generated from property taxes for that in order to be able to fund that, or does the state kick in because it's the state that mandated?
So it's a good question. I don't know. I will say that the you got to think of like the delta and how many more families will move in because of this. Because in that 85 acres, there's already 800 units because there are already apartments and condos there now. Mm-hmm. Now you can go in and they can redevelop those and make them newer, but it may not increase the units. The total capacity has the ability to bring in 1,200 units, which would be 400 more, but that assumes that everyone redevelops what's there, right? So it's who knows what happens, but like Quirk may just decide, look, this is a great location, I don't want to sell. Class and flag, and so it's not, I don't know that they've done the analysis of how many more residents they expect because of this, but the delta may not be as significant as it seems since we're putting this over an area that already has 800 units. But it's a good question. I don't.
Yeah, and you know, school's one thing, traffic patterns, you know, any change in that, who
So the
who funds
traffic
that?
pattern part was a big consideration for why they picked this area, because it's the multi-lane road,
Yep.
and there are turning lanes there, and that was like a big reason why they were less comfortable doing it sort of west of town center because of the traffic issues. But at least Greg felt pretty comfortable that just because of the infrastructure there, it could handle this thing.
So does a vote on this buy time for down the road when they say, now you have to have?
Well, you
Yeah,
have a
you have to
deadline,
build
you know, it's either or. Either support it, don't
We
you?
have a
So the
deadline. What's
So the deadline, December 31st, to pass this,
To
right?
implement
But we don't
it.
have to build anything.
we don't have to ever build anything.
Right.
This is just zoning. It just means that in this area, someone who owns the property can develop a multi-family unit as of right within certain specifications. There are setback requirements, but someone will need to go in and buy the property that's there and do it. We have no obligation actually to build a single unit or even to facilitate anyone building a single unit. It just needs to be zoned for, that makes that possible.
Right.
So you're right, the deadline's December 31. So the one question is, why put it on this town meeting ballot and not October? I mean, Greg's view was
It's coming.
it's going to be a controversial issue. No one spoke out at our meeting. No one really spoke out at the planning board meetings, but Greg has had some community outreach, and there's just a lot of opposition. Not as much specifically to why is it here, or why these lots, or why this, but more just why aren't we fighting these state policies? So look, there's a risk that it doesn't pass at this town meeting, and we'll have another chance in October.
Well, I mean, the state is showing a heavy hand, for
Yes.
sure. So,
So the basis of the opposition that you have heard of is more of just a matter of objecting to the state's ability to come in and unilaterally decide that
So
something like this has to be done.
all of the opposition I heard, and that's just by like listening to the relevant town meetings,
Right.
has been like the tyrannical state, like the opposition to the state dictating
Right.
to the town that we have to do this in this way rather than being more flexible. However, I just asked Greg, I was like, I want to make sure, like, step 2, the one thing is whether we implement, and I think town council's legal guidance is we have to. The second is this the right one? So I actually just pressed Greg to say, like, what are all the criticisms you got about citing it here, and what were the other suggestions? So I heard a lot of that. I want to add, too, that he actually thinks there are some properties in this overlay area that if a developer came in with the eye of converting it to a multifamily unit, may actually improve the use of the unit in terms of, if this is a water resource protection district, and there are some like apartment buildings there that don't have as good septic or some, and all that stuff. So there are some areas where this might actually be an improvement in terms of the water resource protection issues. But yeah, I really push back, like, who has really criticized that? The abutters, the residents north of this area. He hasn't heard anything from the people, from the owners of the property certainly, but the abutters north that are really specifically pushing back on this. He did mention people in Brant Rock that thought, why couldn't we do this in Brant Rock? Why couldn't we do this in other areas? And he talked through why those weren't viable options.
Is it primarily because of the flood zone?
For Brant Rock, it's primarily that. There are he listed, like, there's a bunch of restrictions. It did sound like it's a constellation of things that they have to avoid and go near. Like, they need to be near the bus route. Like, there's like certain
okay.
requirements
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So I think there were just a whole bunch of factors that went into play. But Brant Rock in particular, I think, is a so-called excluded area because of the flood.
Not to, but I'm just curious, so if you know, this were to say we didn't approve this, okay? What are they, I mean, obviously Milton's embroiled in this
Right.
case now, but what, does anybody know what happens if Milton doesn't comply? Like, what will the state?
So there's a few things. One is like the statute says if you don't comply, the state may withhold a list of funds, and Greg provided a list of funds that were included in the statute, and then the regulations followed with a whole bunch of other potentially discretionary funds, including some that we use. So that's sort of the phase one risk, which is the cutoff of funding, like they're threatening withholding seawall funding from milk, stuff like that. The second thing is the AG's position, which is that she has the power under Mass General laws just to enforce any regulatory requirement, meaning she can go to court, as she's doing with Milton, and just ask a court to require performance. And what that means in the context of Milton is to say to Milton, like, you actually cannot enforce your zoning laws in this particular area in a way that would be inconsistent, and to appoint a special master, which is like an independent, you know, expert, former judge, attorney that will go in and actually impose this. So in a sense, by adopting this version, we are able, through the planning board, to do it as best as we can for our interests. And I think Greg and Karen Horn have done that in a lot of ways in terms of preserving the setbacks that were already there in the business area, requiring it be no greater than 16 units per acre, whereas the state regulation is more than 15. So like you could imagine, there's a possibility a special master could come in and say, you can develop any more than, you know, the special master could conceivably impose regulations that are more adversely impacted. So that's a consideration. It's also possible that Milton is more successful in defending it, but again, that's not the advice we're getting, is that the Attorney General's on pretty solid footing in terms of her power to enforce. So that's what, in addition to like the legal fees, like we would, the cost of litigation, there are other groups that may bring action.
I see this.
It's amazing, there's 177 right, communities that have to provide it. It's like,
Is it that many?
Look, I have a lot of objections to the state law. Like, I just think it's overreaching, it's too prescriptive. I understand the issue and I'm sympathetic to the issue, but we have a lot of multi-family housing already in the town, right? Just that we're grandfathered in. But this is very prescriptive in terms of where it needs to be. But it's a state law.
so you were saying the 1,400, but we already had like 8. So that means like the max would be 6. What would it be like the 1,400 on top of the 8?
12 or 14?
No, so we
12.
Right, I mean, it's roughly 14, right?
we have in the 85 acres.
Yeah.
There are about 800 multifamily units already because of the apartments that are there behind Quirk and
Yeah.
that area.
Right.
This is an overlay, so what it means is somebody could develop each acre theoretically and do a maximum of 16 units per acre, which would approach 1,300 units. It's not quite that high because there are some setback issues, but it can get about 1,200 or so acres in the area, total units in the
Yeah,
area.
gotcha.
So that's not in addition to the 800. Someone could come in and like rebuild the 800, but like the whole area has the capacity for 1,200.
So if the 800 units stay as is, then somebody could actually sell off some land and they could build another 400 units.
So I'm like doing like basic math because
yeah.
there may be, the question is like, what land are they going to buy? And then based on the acreage, they can do 16 units. Like it may be that, I haven't really asked it quite that precisely. Like it's possible that some of those developed areas may be more than 16 units per acre. But the point is like it's, you could theoretically buy a parcel like the Bank of America branch, you know, the God help, they don't sell Dunkin' Donuts, but you know what I mean? Like, you can develop those and you can,
So it's that whole strip of land from, all in the back side, not across the street.
not across the street,
Just on that side of 139.
just
And it
north.
goes just north, and then it goes from school, so right where the bank and the daycare and all in the back side of school,
Yeah.
all the way down to the high school. There is a lot of,
Exactly, so this is
Yeah.
this is the area. So it's School Street, you're right. I think the bank is right there, Bank of
Right,
America. Quirk maybe is,
yeah.
and then
Cask is in
Cask and
there.
Flagon.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way, and then here, this is like the
Oh,
auto shop is there, and then the storage. So there's some of these,
one of them is the Sims, the boat store,
Yeah,
right? It's
right.
there too, yeah.
it's all those. There's the
Direct
Ming
Granite, yeah,
location.
Ming.
It's all these locations. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of those lots, as you can see, go pretty far back. But some of this is not developable. Like the back part of Quirk isn't really developable just because of
Okay.
the land. But yeah, that's exactly.
They can't sell off, this is, I mean, I don't know, does this zoning change, can they divide? The setbacks all stay the same, correct?
The setbacks, yeah, we're keeping the same, my understanding is we're keeping most of the same setbacks that were there in terms
Okay.
of from the street. Now, I don't know the question about splitting existing. I don't
Depends
know
on
about
how
that
much,
legal
yeah.
issues. I haven't really asked that.
But you know what, where I'm going with it? I mean, if you've got something that, you've got a storefront here, and then you've got all this land here. I'm
But you
wondering
can-
if
they-
that's the- 'cause
what-
that's a zoning.
But what they can do, in addition to multifamily, it's multi-use, meaning you can potentially build two structures on the property, or you can have one structure that's the first floor can be retail.
then-
So that is a possibility, and a lot of this that fronts Plain Street, you could imagine a lot of it, if a developer developed it, would want to do multi-use to have retail there as well as.
From a process question for you, the planning board, when they typically are considering new zoning in Marshfield, right, and anywhere, do they, in addition, I mean, obviously, a lot of time's been spent here trying to identify an area that meets these qualifications, that, you know, fits in a certain, you know, set of parameters that the state's defined and that the town would like to retain, right, which makes complete sense. Is part of the planning zone or planning board process, do they typically also study the economic impacts that are expected to result from zoning in one particular area versus another, so many units versus another or whatnot? And was any of that done for this, or was this more of just an exercise of, look, the state told us we have to do X, and we're doing X, you know?
Yes, I don't know what exactly they did by way of economic modeling.
It's the only thing that really bothers me is that look, it's, you know, I get where the town attorney's coming from. It's like, it's a law, we have to do it, you know, we're gonna go fight City Hall sort of thing, right? I get that. But at the same time, it's going into something having zero understanding of what the economic impact is on the town, on the town's tax base, on our expenses or anything else like that. That's the only thing that's bothersome to me, right? You're being told, go do something, and there's no understanding of what that impact is. And there's no statement from the state that says that, hey, don't worry about that. If it results in a cost that you guys can't cover or whatever else, we'll be here to support you.
Yeah,
So it's just
safe
going,
doing that.
yeah, it's just like go and get it done and, you know, let the costs land where they land. That's the only part that bothers me about it. But at the same time, I see the other side, which is, you know, again, you know, how much of a fight do you want? Do you really think you can win the fight?
And there's an economic impact there too, because they will take away some of the funding ultimately.
My understanding is that part of the economic funding, because I talked to the head of the planning board last week, is that it would be very, very small.
Yeah.
As far as what we use. So that wouldn't be so much of a thing, but there would probably be a lot of economic impact from the amount of lawyers that would be hired to go and fight the state. And just the disaster that would ensue from that, which is, you know.
Yep.
Do we know the vote of like, so Milton's sort of an outlier right now. Is it like 6-1, or is it like, you know?
Oh, it was like a
7
50,
to
it was like
1?
a split. It was.
No,
almost-
I meant like
oh.
how many communities have voted on this shit? Like this seems to be like
How many?
voting,
Yeah.
voting season.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
So,
And is
But I
Milton
think,
the only community?
it asked at the planning board, and I thought the view of the planning board was that, like, there's a lot of towns have their town meetings in April,
Yeah.
right? So there may be a bunch in our boat. Yeah, like, I don't, does this theoretically, like, increase the value of those lots? I don't know what it does to the property tax.
I don't, and that's the thing, is that there's just a lot of questions, right, around what happened to me, because typically, you know, I spent all my working time in Boston, and you look at the Boston Development Authority, they got a new name now, but the BPA, but they spend a considerable amount of time, months and months, sometimes years, when they're rezoning, looking at a lot more than just the location and everything else, but really considering the economic impacts, right? How does it affect the businesses? How does it affect cost impact on traffic, schools, police, fire, et cetera, to understand what that, you know, what that does, right? And so I get that, you know, whatever you do, it's going to be a forecast, and a forecast is a forecast, you know, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, it's the only thing that rubs me the wrong way. I mean, I get at the base of it that it's been a decree issued by Deacon Hill, and thou shalt follow.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Your
Just
point is,
frustrating, because, you know, I feel that part of our job as an advisory board is, in other towns, we're known as a finance committee. And our job ultimately is the fiscal health and well-being
Our
of the
job,
town.
our
right?
job is more than that. We recommend everything at town meeting that's in the warrant. Where a finance committee just does the financial impact.
Well, so going back to the financial impact, we don't understand at least I don't yet understand the financial impact of this, which is really,
We were never told anything.
well, yes, that's.
No, that's the big question.
That's why
but
we don't know.
All we were told was we have to follow the state guidelines unless we want to fight it.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's sort of like a lousy spot to be in.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really
it is
is.
a tough spot.
Yeah.
So here's I'm just curious, so are they all towns or are there cities that are?
Oh, so there's a lot of, there's a map, I think.
I don't think you're gonna answer.
Um,
I'm just
There's different
curious.
categories of
Right.
towns that are,
No, I don't mean tonight,
have
I mean
responsibilities,
by
so.
town meeting. I don't think they have it.
I agree.
Because Greg would have told us if it wasn't financial.
So
impact.
if you look at the map here,
He's pretty thorough.
like, it's depending on, it's based on where the MBT
Right.
is. So you can be on the rail line, in which case you have certain responsibilities. You can be on, the commuter bus line. We're considered an adjacent community
Right.
because we abut Situate where the
Situate,
Greenbush commuter line is. So
It goes down as
among,
far as Bourne.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that
As
goes,
far as
it
Yeah,
Bourne,
goes
you can see
down.
right there, yeah.
So among the towns that are impacted by this, we are the MBTA adjacent, which means the principal impact of that is the number of multifamily units we have to make available by it, right? So our number is 10% of the total housing stock, which is why our target number was to create a zoning area that would allow for up to 1,100 and plus multifamily units, which is why they needed something, it has to be a minimum of 50 acres, has to
See, that's
permit.
the,
How many are there now?
It's a state, that's the.
Greg said there are
Pretty much the state.
Yeah.
800 units, 800, individual units. there
Currently.
now, currently. But so it has to be a minimum of 50 acres, but he wanted, that we want no more than 4 levels, no more than 16 per acre, so that's why it's 85 acres in order to accommodate it.
Do we know what the number of housing units in Marshfield? Do you know what that, I know at one time.
It's like the 11th, it's like the
11, is it?
1,000,
Because of 10%.
11,557, based in 2020.
11,557?
75,
11575,
right? So that's the total housing units,
as of 20,
2020.
we haven't had that much building since then, but maybe 100.
So how do we proceed here? I mean, it seems to me that, and you guys tell me if you think like, hey, I appreciate your point, Rick, but I think that there's something else that like way outweighs that we should consider and makes this an easier vote than not. But it seems like we we have a question of whether we vote in favor or oppose something that we have not just a little incomplete information. There's always a little bit of information you just can't get right, but like there's a big giant chunk that, like a basic question here that we don't have an answer to.
So
And
is-
would it be fair to delay and to try to see if, the planning board must have talked about this some way, shape, or form or another, right? I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was as simple as.
I just watched the last 2 meetings, so I don't know if they had, planning board had conversations about it, or maybe more likely the planning department considered it as part of their assessment of where to put this.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
But
Is
I
somebody-
didn't hear that discussed at the board meetings that I watched the last 2.
Just curious if somebody looked at it, right? To your point, maybe the planning department, right? They
Right.
looked at it. Maybe they came to a very innocuous, like, yeah, it's not, it's not
Right.
even a
Recently,
big deal, and then it becomes a simpler question to answer.
Do you think Bob Galvin gives us better direction, like hold off a vote, or you think the vote, he's already said, don't fight, it's
No,
already
I
facing
think
off.
I think what you're saying is, do we defer our vote until we get that information and then vote on it, right?
Correct.
Before town meeting.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
Is that something that we consider doing, or?
That's up to
Would
the
we
chair
have-
if
Yeah,
you
we
want.
can do
Can we
that.
have Greg come in? And maybe Greg will have more information, and maybe Greg comes in and talks to all
You only
of
have
us.
2 weeks, 1
Yeah,
week of
but-
school vacation.
Right, but I don't know what, you must
I mean,
have.
we can,
children.
if we want, we can get some, come up with some questions, get some answers, and then we always meet before the town meeting anyway. We could vote it then. I mean, it's kind of a last minute vote, but they can still put it up on the screen.
Maybe he can provide it, answer the questions written. I don't know. It's up to you how you want to do it.
Yeah.
I am away that week before
The week before, so.
the
so
school
we need
vacation
you-
week, but
Yeah, we need you. So, I mean, I don't know any reason
think?
why we wouldn't be able to get him in next week, but, I think, I like what you're saying, because, it's better to have an idea ahead of time. I mean, I realize that this is something we probably don't have, we do have a choice, but I think
Yeah.
we should know what the real options
Yeah,
are.
that's the way I feel. It's like, even if I don't have a choice in something,
Right. You
I
still
want
wanna
to know
know.
what the heck we're
Yeah.
walking into, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Then let's.
Maybe they don't have the information for us, but even if it had to be tabled until the next, if it doesn't pass, well,
Yeah.
we've only got a couple
No,
of
it won't be tabled, it'll either be defeated or passed,
defeated or passed,
and then you're gonna deal with it in the fall.
because we wouldn't withdraw.
The problem our board has, as a board, we're gonna recommend to town meeting to either fight
Right,
the state or
Right.
go along with the state. If we're gonna fight the state, we have to know what we're getting into, because there's gonna be a huge factor in the legal fees.
yes.
And then how much are we gonna get beat on the finances from the state or anything else that goes on with the state? You don't know if they're gonna take it out on you. Those are the real questions. I don't think the financial impact of the town is gonna make that much difference on what the zoning does. I don't think we have any control over that, but
Yeah, I think I would not support having our recommendation be to fight the state on this.
exactly.
I think that would be a bad idea for the town
Yeah.
board to do. I mean, at most, it's a modification if there's a way to do it less impactful, or maybe just to get insight, so we know.
Insight would be
Um,
helpful.
You could meet the night of town meeting, like a half hour earlier.
How early?
Does the
Yeah.
meeting have to be in person? I mean,
No, but we have to vote on it.
no, I know.
You
But
mean as in a Zoom?
can you do Zoom? Can you do phone call or something else where it just makes it really easy?
I think it would have to be a Zoom.
You could, I mean,
Why couldn't we ask Greg to meet us maybe a half hour earlier?
Oh, we could do that
right?
too.
That's
Yeah.
probably easy, that gives them 2 weeks to get the
Same-
answers
same
together,
day.
if he doesn't have it, or if he does have it.
All right.
And by the way, I agree. Like, I think fighting the state is probably a very bad idea, but I'd rather go into it eyes wide open than just, well, whatever. This is what the state said, so I don't know the answers, but.
Okay, why don't we do this? I'll reach out to Greg tomorrow. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please submit them to me.
Yep.
That's
All right, and then that way he can go bang, 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 whatever. Maybe he can meet us. I'm not sure if they're planning on meeting before town meeting. But what? Sound good to everybody?
yep, that
Yeah.
sounds good.
Thank you.
And I also
Just let us know what time and all that.
Yeah.
but I
Yeah, no,
So the meeting's at 7 o'clock, so right now I'm thinking 6:30 on the 22nd
Yeah.
for the next meeting. That's town meeting.
That's,
That's not,
is
that
there a
does not work for
possibility?
you. That's okay.
so I teach in Boston until 6:20.
Okay,
I'm gonna cut class out a little earlier off the record,
gotcha.
but I may not get here until right at 7. So
Okay.
is there a way to do like a Zoom meeting or sometime next week or even the week? I mean,
All right, let me look
I
at
just,
that too.
otherwise, I don't mind if you guys go ahead
Yeah.
without me, but
Can we
I,
have him in on a Zoom meeting while you're driving? Would you do
I
that?
don't
We
think
can't have it, we won't have it set up.
we won't have it set up like
We're
that.
gonna be in front
But
of-
We'll
We're
figure.
gonna
I
be in the
can-
auditorium.
So hold on, so Mark, you're gone from when?
I'm going the
April.
week before, the week of the
Eighth,
15th?
seventh? I think the 8th is Monday.
15th is a Friday. 15th is a Monday, rather. 15th?
Yeah,
Oh, the
from
15th?
15th, that week of the 15th, I'm away.
Okay.
I could do a Zoom call during.
Yeah,
that
I would think, yeah, because I got a whole bunch of business travel on and off too, but if we can do a Zoom call, it seems like that would
I don't
be an
mind doing a
easy way
Zoom
to-
call at night
Yeah,
Okay.
to
All right.
to do this
Okay.
that week.
That sounds good. Okay.
and then no matter where we are, we can,
Yep. Okay.
Make it happen.
All right. So we're gonna move on. So we're gonna move on to Article 19.
Which I think is, we got a table, 19 is just related to 18.
Okay, so we'll table that one as well.
Yeah, hold on, it's,
Okay.
what is it?
So, Mark, are you gonna call Greg and get this information, or is Tom gonna call?
I'm either way, I'm happy.
Yeah.
to-
Well, why don't I see what we have for Terry? Everyone. So it's what's today? Tuesday. So questions in by Friday. Sound good?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll reach out to Greg tomorrow and say on Friday and then I'll post
Okay.
something.
Yeah, so 19 is just the map, right? 18 is the actual text of the zoning bylaw.
Okay.
19 is the map, so it's basically the same issue.
Okay. So we're gonna table that one as well. Pass over that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're on to 20, which was Dan's, which is okay. That's a petition. I don't have a lot of information on that one. I'm gonna pass.
Let's see what it is.
It's the woman. She doesn't want anything.
Oh, you're gonna tell the
What number
selectmen what to
were we?
do. I don't think we should
Number
make,
20?
I don't think we should make a decision on it. Let town meeting make the vote, because we're not gonna recommend bad legislature. The selectmen can ignore this.
Oh, it's a petition.
Right. There's three of the four that the selectmen can
That's right.
can yeah. Not do anything. Okay. So
I mean,
I mean, I confess, I don't know what she's talking, what
yeah.
the ask is here.
I don't either. I thought that she wanted to keep that full, not have anything done, so the expansion of the water treatment plant, right? So,
So I think she's talking about that area around, right next to.
To Harbor Park.
yeah,
to
right across from Harbor
right-
Park,
right
yeah,
across
right,
from
yeah,
Harbor
there's a
Park.
parking
That
lot there.
There's a parking lot there, and then there's a whole area in the backside that they used in the past for dredge spoils. I think she wants to make sure that nothing is done. There had been some discussion, that's her intent, is to make sure that that is left alone to be used for any future dredge spoils or whatever, something related to that. She doesn't want to see anything else go in there, i.e. a ballpark, I believe that's what she said that day.
And the
that-
trail was voted down. They were opposed to that several
Right.
years ago.
Right. Yeah, that was a harbor master thing, right?
That was a yes.
A lot of it has to do with anti-Mike DeMayo.
Yeah.
That was-
So
It's
she
like a
just wants,
spot zoning, isn't it?
who is looking at
Is that what it
this?
is? Like, I'm just
Petitioner.
gonna
Petitioner.
put your-
No, who
On this
from the
particular
board
one.
was looking at this?
Oh, Dan.
make sure
Oh,
You know where
Tony
it is?
couldn't make it,
they
so.
wanted to
Is this something maybe on the Zoom meeting we pick back up?
Yeah, yeah, okay, I'm gonna, maybe Dan has information, maybe he's talked to her, I'm gonna pass this one over as well, okay. Article 21 is Keith,
I'm gonna vote against this.
okay?
I'll move
Do I-
against.
Do I have a second?
Second,
And I'll tell you why. One, we don't have the money. Two, we should not be creating a department reorganization at town meeting. It should be done with the department head, Mike Maresco, the financial team, and the officer who petitioned it. town meeting should not be fooling around with this on their own. I think it's a bad precedent.
All right.
And it'll probably pass the town meeting, but the selectmen can ignore it.
Okay, that's what the selectmen can ignore as well. Okay, any further discussion on this?
I mean, I agree. I don't know the details of her internal lobbying.
Right.
But it's a bad precedent if
Right.
we have individual people coming to town hall for particular things
Right,
like
yep.
this.
Yeah,
We don't have the
I
money
agree, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of not supporting this article, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain, all right. Okay, moving on to the, actually, you know what, before we do, let's go to 5, 6, and 11 here if we can, which is Brian's.
In the annual?
This is, no, we're gonna go back to the special because Brian wasn't here last week. Or do you want to pass over those just to do in the Zoom as well?
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever I want to do. Okay, this is the open, I really, let's
I mean,
go.
if we're doing a Zoom,
Yeah, yeah.
not
Why
to,
don't we
not to
do-
overburden the next.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Zoom meeting during,
All right.
No, but it'd be good to hear from the people that
Yeah,
dug into it, right?
I'm gonna pass over those guys as well. So, okay, all right. Annual town meeting.
So what do we have, Tom? We've got 5, 6, and 9,
5, 6,
9 and 20?
no, 5, 6, 11, 18, 19, 20. That were passed over.
Yep.
All right. Okay, Article 1, I approve Article 1 is written.
Okay.
All right, it's just a annual. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Tom Scollins. I approve Article 2 is written. Second.
Second.
McLear. Again, just the salaries and compensation for those folks. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Rick Smith, number 3.
Yeah, so Article 3, when we were last here, Michael had mentioned that there was going to be $250,000 added to the school budget line item, and that will be done via an addendum. So question is, can we vote on this without that? Is there, because I haven't seen any
Well, we
additional.
have to move it.
I
So,
don't understand.
so we're moving, we're moving this.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Article 3 is the budget, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
So it should be the department heads, us, that should be voting on all this, not one person.
I'm not following you. We're voting it now like we typically do.
When we get to town meeting, no one's gonna get up there and say something unless you're gonna make a speech, which you usually don't. So what's gonna happen is you won't be saying anything at town meeting on this unless you're asked a question about a department that you represent. That's what I'm saying.
We don't support this?
don't
No,
we?
we've already voted all this stuff except for the schools.
Yeah, that's why, my question is more of a process question. Is
Yeah,
just
yeah, right,
the
'cause
$250,000
I'm
that
gonna
was
move it.
cited had to be in here.
I'm gonna move it.
Oh, so
Well,
you-
I'm asking, I'm not saying that I disagree with it. I'm asking just a question. I just want to understand. It's a rookie question, so.
No,
bear with me.
because this is like the first time we've actually added money back in, and we
Yeah,
haven't
just-
voted on
just
it
trying
in
to
this, right? So
understand.
this is.
What'll happen at town meeting, the question's gonna be moved, and then there's gonna be a motion. The motion will have the amended figure in it, because it's supported by the town bodies. It's not from the floor, the change. The change is from the town administrator, et cetera, and us. They've all approved it.
So there's not an additional article.
No, we're gonna change the number if we agree with it. And then in the motion, it'll have that figure. Just like at the end of the motion, it'll give you all the issues of article, whatever's coming from free cash, article is coming from fees. They
Yeah.
do a thing, but it'll be in the motion. That's how it should be done.
Right, but we're actually voting, when we vote all this stuff, we're actually voting a different number for the education, which I know
Right.
is gonna be up on the screen, but right now it's not in here.
No, we have to move
That
the
number,
number. 'Cause
right.
We never moved anything.
Right,
That's what I'm saying.
gotcha.
I mean, you can move it, I don't care, it's an additional
Yeah,
$250.
Yeah, so,
So we move it So you're saying that we'd move it in acknowledgement that an additional 250 would be
That's
added?
what I'm thinking.
Right.
Wait, so you're gonna move Article 3
Yes.
as written, and we're gonna say, like, I'm voting with the understanding that there's this.
No.
No.
We've already voted Article 3, with the
Right.
exception of the schools.
So what you're saying is, like, let's not vote on Article 3, let's wait for you to,
No, that's not what I said. What I'm saying is, we've already voted Article 3 except for the schools.
okay.
We're gonna make a motion to amend that article. If the board wants to accept the new number, it will go to town meeting, and in the motion by the moderator,
Okay.
you'll hear this figure.
But in
It'll be
terms,
amended
in terms of today, like, we've already voted on everything but the school committee part of Article 3.
It won't be in the warrant, it'll be an amended number. It's, I
Okay.
mean,
So it'll have to be amended on the floor.
it's gonna be amended on the motion.
It's going to be amended on the motion.
You don't want the floor to amend it because it'll be chaos.
Okay.
Once it's opened up, then you're gonna have people attacking it.
All right, so it's amended on the motion. Okay. So,
But as I understand it, like, for Article 3, we've effectively already voted to approve every section except the education line item. You're gonna move that later with the additional 250.
No. I'm gonna move,
the whole,
me or Tom is gonna move that new number
Yes.
right now. And then when we go to town meeting, when this article gets brought up, the moderator will read in the motion
Right.
the amended number. We're not doing anything.
Except voting on we're not voting on the amended number,
You'll vote on the amended number at town meeting as a individual. You
but
know,
not here.
We're gonna vote that tonight.
so, but does it,
I'm not.
yeah, but does
I
that
feel like this is an
include-
I'm not. I don't think anybody's following you because the number, the 250 isn't here. So are you saying that we're like right now the big number is 115, 154, 910.
We're gonna
You're saying
add-
we're going to add 250 to make that 115, 394,
Right
910.
now, okay, so
Okay,
we're
so-
adding
so-
250.
We have,
Okay.
the schools want that number. Mike said that we had enough,
Right.
okay? And I had asked the superintendent if he was accepting this number or moving more money in. He says, no, we're accepting it.
Okay.
So, no,
So,
So tonight we move the article with the $250,000.
additional,
Okay.
all right.
if the
I
board
think that's
supports
what we were
it.
trying, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, did I have a second on Rick's article?
Second.
There you go, don't even, okay, so we are going to vote on an amended number that includes that 250 for school, which is $115,394,910.
I second.
We got a second on that, the amendment.
Tom, I'm so sorry. Will you tell me that number again, please? It's
394,
394. Thank
910.
you.
Yep,
910.
okay, so we have a, let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay, so now we're voting on the Article 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so there were two separate votes. We had to vote on
vote
the
on the
number.
amendment.
With the
Yeah.
amended, all right, we voted on the
think we did that
amended
correct.
number.
And then you vote on
We
the
vote
full
on the
budget.
whole number, okay.
That's what
Okay.
town meeting will do. But
Okay.
Yeah.
we don't have to bring anything up.
That's it, okay.
We're done.
Okay. Article 4, I have various by subcommittee, but this is capital budget.
And this is what we talked about today, Tony. Yep.
It's the same thing. It's all gonna be done by Maresco or the department heads anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't usually get up on 4. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. Okay, I tell you, I'm going to move Article 4 as written.
Well, hang on,
We'll,
Tom.
we'll,
Yep.
we'll second it, then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, sure.
I thought we would,
Well, I'll second it, and then we'll.
Okay, you, Donnie
okay,
seconded
now
it,
we
go
can
ahead.
discuss it after.
Yes, we
even
can
though-
discuss it.
Okay.
What do you got?
We were,
Oh, that's right, because there's stuff that was in
Yeah,
here
there's
that
stuff that's
we
in
didn't
there
need.
that they need, so they will be meeting with the capital budget committee
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we will,
Let's pass
Yep.
over this one. All right, we're going to pass over because that, do you remember that
Yeah,
from the thing where
you
they?
said-
yeah, there's some
This is- I know.
discrepancies.
Yeah, right? We got that? That was wild.
And you know what, and if we vote on it, and then the funds,
That's a-
if they
That's
don't,
an industry term, but.
because of the
whatever.
discrepancies, if the funds are locked up, then they're not gonna be able to use the money,
Something else.
right,
Yeah.
for something else, so,
Okay,
And that'll just
Right
take
on.
2 seconds of town meeting.
yeah, exactly,
well,
yep.
you
Uh,
want to do this
I
article
move Article, which one?
4, because I have one
table's
more
not
than
over
you.
there.
What if they give
oh,
me?
it doesn't matter to me,
I'm moving Article 5 is written.
I'm good.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is the revolving fund expenditure limitations. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. 6.
Can I stop for 1 second? I don't know if you know.
You may.
I'm just curious about this. So these are the limitations.
Yes.
Do they have to spend a certain amount of this money? They don't, and it's revolving, so it can just.
It stays in there.
Stays in there, but they can't get over the limit, so then
They
they'd
can't
have
get
to-
over the
yes.
limit, okay.
So what they'll do is spend it down if they get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you could buy something in anticipation of it following year, I suppose, to get around it. But there's only so much they can put in the fund.
Right. But the whole idea is to have all these self-supporting, right? So it's good. I mean,
was
the
trying to
fact that the
remember.
limitation goes up means like, okay, we've got some money to do something good there. So
Okay,
that's the way I look
great,
at it.
thank you.
Yeah, you bet. 6.
I move the article as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
This just allows
this
us
is-
to accept the Chapter 90 funding
Okay.
for the roads.
Gotcha. Any further
It's
discussion?
an annual.
Yep. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Number 7 is Brian, so let's pass that one over. And number 8, the zoning regulations. This just updates the table use that was approved at the April 19 annual town meeting. I move Article 8 is written.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. I move Article 9 is written. Same thing.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Article 10. All right, now this is the flood proofing. So this language, they take the red out, they go with the blue to in accordance with the Mass State Building Code and the Massachusetts Conservation Commission, which has to do with wastewater and all that stuff. So, so just new wording. So I move Article 10 is written. I think I already said that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Number 11, Mark.
I move the article as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
So this is to update the map for the inland wetland district now that the Department of Agriculture has done an updated soil survey to more accurately reflect where the wetland areas are. So this is just updating the map to be more precise and updated. The impact is 400 acres, 414 structures come out of the the district, and 133 structures go in, but they're grandfathered. But this is pretty straightforward because it's just, we adopt the map as what defines the district.
Gotcha. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 12, Mark.
I move the article as written.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Whoever.
Article does pretty narrow. It's just adding 2 definitions to the section of the zoning bylaws for the housing trust, which we dealt with at the last town meeting, and the new name of the relevant state agency, the EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Okay. All right.
Rick is covering the substantive stuff in the next article.
Yeah.
This is the definition section.
Gotcha. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, Article 13, Rick.
I move to move Article 13 as written.
Second.
So Articles 13 through 16 are basically just simple red lines to the existing law, the way that it's written, to reflect what was already approved actually at the last town meeting, which was rule changes done in response to the state changing the Department of Housing over to an executive office of livable or Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, sorry.
Yep,
So that's all it is, name
okay.
changes and whatnot.
gotcha. Can we actually move Article 13 through 16 as written? Can we do that? Because
You
it's
can
on the
do
same
that.
thing.
You can do
Why
that.
don't you do that?
So I move Articles 13 through 16 as written.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mark. Okay. I think Greg explained this sort of thing, and so did Rick right now. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Okay. 17 is Dan. Is- We're gonna pass over, maybe he's got good stuff. See him already, and then 18 is Brian, we're gonna pass over that. I think that's the citizens petition, correct? Yeah, the microbrewing, and then Article 19,
Maybe.
Keith.
I can find it. So many
38,
pages here.
Page 38.
What happened with 18, John? What are we doing?
We're gonna pass that over because that was Brian's,
Okay.
part of the Zoom.
This is one of these redundant petition articles because the selectmen don't have to recognize anybody. We had this issue with the school department years ago too. Bob Parkins was making an issue, he couldn't talk, they wouldn't allow him to talk. A board has the right to run it the way they want, as long as they're holding to the rules of the state in the town. So, this has no teeth in it, so I'll recommend against it.
No teeth, because,
Selectmen don't have to listen to this. She said,
well, you meaning, they don't have to listen to it, meaning they can stare at their phone or
no,
think about what they're having for dinner.
no. This, Article 19 is, if you go to a select board's meeting,
Yeah,
they don't have to have you talk, give your opinion, or ask a question if they don't want you to. They can ignore you. That's what this is saying. They want to be heard.
yeah, this is saying that they want to have a section up front at the meeting that allows people, according to reasonable rules, to be able to stand up and speak about something, speak about an issue that they have, a stop sign on a street or whatever, right?
Yeah.
With rules around it, right?
But
Right.
the selectmen don't have to do that.
But,
I think
and I think what she's insinuating, or what she's suggesting, is what I've seen in city halls, and I've
Yeah.
been working with governments all
Yeah.
West Coast, East Coast, is most of them actually have such things. They have a period up front at the beginning of the meeting
Yeah.
where it's a public comment time, and they don't even comment, or city council, maybe city council, and you say your thing, you get your minute or whatever it is, and then sit down, next, cycle through, and then just move on.
So it's not a Q&A, it's really just.
No, it's not your private time with the select board where the select board's forced to answer something or
Okay.
respond or whatnot. It is your opportunity as a citizen to stand in front of the town for a limited period of time. There's rules around it, right? Because otherwise it'd go on forever. To stand up in front of the townspeople and, say something, right? And again, you have a certain time period, you have to identify, who you are and where you live, all that stuff. But I've seen this in cities and towns across the country because, just my work, working with municipalities and wastewater. It's always worked pretty well, and actually it was nice because, again, oftentimes what would happen was people would know that there's something that's going to be voted on or that's going to be discussed, and they know that they're not going to have an opportunity really to talk about it, right, as a townsperson, but they want to just get their voice heard. The town, the select board, the city council, whoever the governing body is, has no obligation to pay any attention to them.
Right.
It's just an opportunity for them to speak. It's a
How do you
matter of transparency.
What do they do to prevent just filibustering?
No, because
Some town meetings where that would be.
Yeah.
because there's rules, right? So there's rules that, in fact, I think she said, or this person, Patricia,
It says
subject to reasonable rules, right? So there'd have to be rules in place. And the cities and towns that I've seen, there's no way that you could have it go on for like 3 hours where everyone's just like, oh my God, we're never starting this meeting, right? Or where somebody gets up and they have infinite amount of time to talk. It's very,
Well, this is
restricted.
interesting because it says subject to reasonable rules. So what does that mean, right? Is that something that has to be defined eventually, or is that,
But the selectmen can ignore this.
they can ignore this particular article? They can act as if this article did not even come before them.
That's all I'm
right?
saying, so why are we
Right.
debating it? I'm not questioning whether it's a good rule or bad rule.
does the town get the opportunity to vote on it at town meeting?
Yeah.
Only if it comes before the town. If there's things that come before the selectmen that don't have to go before the town, you don't have a chance.
No,
You're
I
talking
think-
about town meeting, this town meeting.
This will be presented to the town, and if it passes, I think according to Galvin, it's basically an advisory. In other words, the select board isn't obligated to institute these rules.
Got it.
They will just have, if they don't, they're doing it against the town meeting wishes, right? If it passes and they're elected officials.
Got it.
So there are consequences. So it's not binding, according to
Right.
Galvin's view, it's not a binding vote by town meeting. It's an advisory vote that'll have the impact that a town meeting majority vote would have.
Okay,
So I guess the question is, do we need to vote at all on it?
Well, we have to make a recommendation. We can ignore it. We don't have to say anything, leave it up to the town because there's no teeth in it.
I mean, I like the premise of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Saying like, you know, someone should, but then there's a filibustering thing, and you go, okay, 30 seconds, or if somebody flooded a selectmen's meeting with 200 people and everyone gets 1 minute, you kind of go, this.
well, that's where the reasonable rules, which should be
Right.
set by the select board.
Yes.
Right? The select board absolutely should have that power to say, look, we're not turning these meetings into, 5-hour public comment sessions. Like, we got 10 minutes, and if you're in line in time, then you get part of that 10 minutes and
Maybe
say
it's
your
an
piece and you're
amendment
done.
to
This board has always let people talk,
regarding who sets the reasonable.
as long as I've been on here. But the selectmen, we don't control them.
Yeah.
Do what you want with this one, I don't care.
I'm going to pass it over.
You're passing it
To
over to
take
him?
it up, take it
Yes,
up next
the
time?
Zoom.
Take
All
it-
right?
it's for.
Do we want to
are we
think
gonna
about
do
Yeah,
this?
so I think in terms of the ambiguity of subject to reasonable rules, I think given that this is just an advisory vote anyway, I'm not as worried about the ambiguity of it, because then the select board, if it passes and decides to go down this road, would have to develop rules, and then the voters who, at their reelection, will decide if they really don't like it.
I agree, and I would say that if it wasn't that case, if it wasn't an advisory and it absolutely, went into effect, I would not vote in favor because I'd want to know more about what those reasonable rules are, who has the power to implement them, how all that gets done before it happens. But to your point, it's advisory, so it's like I like the idea of saying, hey, I think you guys should do this. How you deal with it, how they deal with it is their power.
Right.
By the law, so.
I'm happy to vote on this next time. I actually would love to get the select board's view on this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. All right. All right, there we go. So right now we have,
Got a lot on our Zoom
So what
meeting.
do you want, wait a minute, Tom, so what are we doing with this?
we're gonna pass it over.
And we're
Not voting
tabling
on
it?
it.
Not voting, we're
We're
tabling
not
it.
voting it. We're
And we can
tabling
decide,
it.
yes.
Okay.
we're
So-
we're
So
bringing
we
it up
can,
again at the Zoom.
we're
Yes.
revisiting this during our Zoom
Yes.
meeting?
Oh,
Okay.
wait a minute, why are we bringing it up again? It's a
I-
non-binding, non-issue item, why can't we just vote it up or down or ignore it?
Because I'm
Who wants to think?
the grand poobah of this thing.
You're the boss. That's right, you're the boss.
There's
I
your
would
gavel
like
right
to,
there.
I'd just like to get some input. I mean, I think it's gonna be a quick vote next time, but I mean, it's not like this is the only one hanging out, right? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the special, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the
So we
annual.
still have 11.
We have 11. Some of them are easy, some of them are just the ones that guys weren't here for, that could be easy.
I'd like to think about that.
All right.
I
There you go.
think that,
See?
Yeah, and I guess it's the subject to reasonable rules piece that I'm,
Okay.
I think it is a little ambiguous, but.
Okay, and so,
I like your suggestion of figuring out what a few others think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Get kind of the thoughts there.
okay, so we're talking Zoom, which would be, are we thinking next week? The week of the 8th?
Probably should be.
All right? Week of the 8th.
Are you gonna be able to get all the information?
I don't know. I mean, but the week of the 15th, he's on vacation. I don't
well, I
want
could do the Zoom I don't mind doing a Zoom the week of the 15th, because as long as you're doing a Zoom, and if it's at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, that's fine.
Okay.
Can I suggest something?
You may.
Why don't you ask Greg if he has the information? If he has it, you can do it anytime. If he doesn't have it, find out when he's ready.
Okay.
If he can get it.
Gotcha.
He's the one that's really the key in all this. Most of the other articles will fall in place.
Okay. All right. All right, stand by on the standby. I'm going to talk to Greg tomorrow and then report back. Sound good?
As far
Like
as
it.
like the Zoom.
As far as where he thinks he could answer our questions, I'll just say, hey, we may have 10 questions, when do you
Yeah.
think you could answer them? And then I'll go from there. Maybe he's on vacation. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Just making stuff up. Okay, are we good? Okay, I am going to call to adjourn the meeting at 7:44 to my pal in there. All right, awesome. All right, guys, I'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank